Libra Sun and Rising. Welcome to your March 2023 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Well, March is the month that I have been anticipating for some time. Last year I was doing personal readings, and when I do transits, I always go like a year in advance, or usually for, my transits readings for sure. And I was like, oh my gosh, when I'd look at March, I'd be like, this is wild. And I wasn't hearing other astrologers talking about it on their videos then. But then I thought about it and I said, why would they, since they're doing monthly forecasts, why would they be talking about that? And then little by little, I started hearing things from other astrologers, and I was like, okay, I'm on the right track here. So the reason that those of us who are following this kind of stuff are saying this is because in March we have some energy shifts where outer planets, in other words, they're not personal to us, they have longer transits, are going into different signs. Now that in and of itself is no really, big deal, but when they're doing it, multiple are doing it in the same month, then you start to sit up and take notice and go, whoa, this is really going to shift things. So the first one is going to be Saturn going into Pisces on the 7th. And Saturn hasn't been in Pisces for 30 years. I'm having, my natal Saturn is in Pisces. I'm going to have my second Saturn return. So it's been a minute since Saturn went into Pisces, 30 years, And then the other one is Pluto going into Aquarius, and that hasn't happened for 200 plus years. And you might have heard this already, that the last time it did go into Aquarius, it was during the American and French Revolutions. So Aquarius is the sign of the collective, and both of those revolutions involved a populist uprising, right? So this kind of thing, or well, I don't know if we'd say populist in terms of the American Revolution, but certainly people, banding together because they want freedom. And so anyway, what those transits, I'm not going to go too much into them. I will touch upon them in this reading, but I have a separate reading. I need to link it. I keep talking about it, but the chances of you searching for it on my channel by yourself are probably slim to none, so I should just link it. And so I will definitely do that, hopefully by the time you hear this. So the other thing is that you're going to start to have this Aries energy really pick up steam in the second half of the month. And Aries is your opposite sign, Libra, as a lot of you know. So this affects your opposite house, which is the 7th house of committed partnership. Guess who rules that sector? Well, you do. So that makes it that much more significant in your life in March. The other kind of changing of the sign, so to speak, is Mars going into Cancer after having been in fellow air sign Gemini for over 7 months. So that is significant as well. Let's start at the beginning of March. On the 2nd, Mercury goes into Pisces, and for you, this is a very practical area. This is the 6th house that Virgo rules in astrology, which has to do with your daily routine, how you order your time, your health, your service to others, practical matters in life. Your day-to-day routine is part of that. Mercury rules the 6th house because it rules Virgo. And so when it goes into its own domain, it specializes in the affairs of that house. In particular, this could be about diet. You might be reading about different diets. You might be researching health matters, talking to an employer. That's a possibility. Now you have Neptune in this sector. And so when Neptune is transiting the sixth house, you may have a mystery illness. I don't know how many of you have read Medical Medium, and that was kind of like, I think that is the premise of his book. I'm I'm one of those people who collects ebooks. I just like I used to collect physical books. Now I'm collecting ebooks, and I have gotten to the first chapter, but I he has an expanded version of that, his main book. He has other books too. But it really was because some people, have gone to doctors and they can't pinpoint what's going on, and he can tune into it, allegedly, supposedly. So, I mean, it's always, whether you take it seriously or not, it's always kind of interesting to explore that, and you might be doing something like that. So if you've had any kind of strange conditions or symptoms and you've tried to get them checked out and you're coming up with nothing, you might be searching for even more information. And on the 7th, Saturn goes into that area, into the 6th house. When Saturn goes into the 6th house, it can signal several years where you are going to be working harder than you have before. But it's not just slaving away. Hopefully at the highest level, it's not slaving away. It's doing so to lay down a foundation so that you can, be able to live life on your own terms. So, for instance, and this can apply to anything. I mean, it might apply to a health regimen. If somebody is not feeling good and they're trying to heal, sometimes they employ a lot of different modalities and a very strict diet. And that doesn't mean that they're going to do so for the rest of their life, but they really want to get their body back to optimal conditions so that they can be more casual about it. So sometimes, you kind of work hard on the front end and then you can coast a little bit later on because you've gotten things under control. And because Neptune has been here, Saturn coming into this area can be very helpful because Neptune tends to be very vague and confused sometimes, spiritual for sure, but not really knowing exactly what step to take first. I have my natal Neptune in the 6th house. And, I was going to say the struggle is real, but I mean, I don't want to characterize it as struggle. I just think that, when Neptune is in your house, your 6th house, whether it's your natal 6th or it's transiting the 6th, it's really asking of you to kind of tune into what it is that you want to do as service to others. It may make you more altruistic. I mean, I'm talking specifically about the transit right now. It may make you more altruistic, but it can also make you more diffused, less precise, less organized. Saturn will be a good companion to Neptune and kind of keep things together. And this will go on for several years. On the same day, we're having a full moon at 16 degrees of Virgo. This is the opposite sign of Pisces. Now, a full moon, I mean, at every full moon, the sun is in opposition to the moon. So the sun is at 16 degrees of Pisces in your 6th house at the time of that full moon in the 12th. But just to have that Saturn going into Pisces, to me, that is just amazing on the same day that we have a full moon in Virgo. It really does speak about the differences, the contrast between the practical and the spiritual. And for you, these placements are kind of transposed, you know? So you have your sixth house is Pisces and your 12th house is Virgo. And so when there's a full moon in the 12th, it's really a great time to quit a bad habit because the 12th house can be addiction. And please keep in mind that addiction is not limited to substance abuse. It can be a behavior. Like some kind of thing like watching TV all the time, being on the internet all the time, a person that you are codependent on with whatever. So being able to let go of a self-defeating pattern, this can bring heightened intuition. And again, since Saturn is going in that sixth house on the same day, this could be about like what kind of career you want. Saturn rules the house of career, 10th house. In the sixth, it's connected to the service that you're offering. Again, you might be in a spiritual kind of vibe lately, Libra, and you would rather do something more spiritual than practical in terms of the type of work that you're doing. So Saturn can bring some kind of structure to that. And the 12th house full moon can be like a spiritual download that might even have a karmic connection where you can tap into a past life. Maybe you're not doing so consciously, but you realize that this is something that you've always wanted to do, that you kind of came here to be an energy healer, for instance. A Libra is an air sign, so it's not, I don't think it would be, beyond the pale to suggest that some Libra people are very connected to their mind or their intellect. And they may have I won't say a love-hate relationship with religion or spirituality, but maybe kind of like an on-again, off-again feeling about it, because there might be a part of you that thinks that it's superstitious, that it's not really, it's anti-intellectual to believe in some of this stuff. And that can be an impediment to kind of like embracing other aspects of yourself. So I feel like Neptune in the sixth house can really infuse your practical day-to-day life with spiritual influences too. And yeah, that's another thing too, is having Virgo in your 12th house means that even your woo-woo time is, you bring a grounded sense to that, because some people really go out off the rails when they have like a spiritual awakening, for instance. And it's good to kind of balance your time on this earth plane with your spiritual side. Well, that's my opinion anyway. On the 16th, Venus goes into Taurus, which is great. Venus is your ruler, and it rules you and Taurus. So it's in the sign that it rules in that second house, which is earned income. So that's nice, and that could be beneficial financially for all of us. But for you, this area of life is your 8th house. And the 8th house, like the second house that Taurus rules, can be about money, but it can be about shared resources or other people's money, for instance, parents' money, or money you get from some kind of, I was going to say dividends. I don't really know. That should be, part of it, but definitely things with insurance payouts and tax payouts. If you're getting, tax refunds or any kind of money, rebates. And but spouse's money, if you're coupled, maybe your partner is getting a raise and it affects you indirectly because their money is your money. But this could be inheritance. Also, Venus in the 8th can be soulmate connection or just deep connection with somebody on a romantic level. On the same day, Mars comes out of its shadow in Gemini. So this has been, Mars has been in your 9th house for all this time. And that's an interesting one too. So like if you were fighting with the university about student loan, maybe that's what Venus in the 8th has some connection to, like getting money. That's, yeah, like getting a money from a loan, and you can stop that fight because now whatever that retrograde meant to you in the 9th house, it's run its course. So I feel like Mars gives a sense of urgency in the 9th house. If a person is going to college, and by the way, you can go to college when you are past your 20s, and whenever this is, it might be this like, I have to do this now, I want to do this now. And so you do something, and then you are met with some kind of pushback, and that might have been during the retrograde period, late October until the middle of January, and now everything is resolved. And by resolved, it might mean that you don't go back to school, or if this is a trip that you were planning on taking, that you are kind of letting it go for now because it seems like it's not happening. Or if you have taken a trip and you were stranded somewhere, maybe now you can continue. I don't know how this may have played out for you. On the 19th, Mercury goes into Aries, so it looks like that's the first entrance of these personal planets into your 7th house, the house that you rule, of committed partnership and legal affairs. Also, I just want to say that Jupiter has been in this house for several months. So you've already had Jupiter here. Jupiter benefits legal matters, also marriage, committed partnership. Not saying that all Libra people are hooked up like that, but it favors having ample opportunity to have that come into your life. On the 20th, you might be signing a document, you might be getting married and getting your marriage license. On the 20th, we have the astrological new year when the sun goes into Aries. That is kind of like a New Year's time for humanity and kind of starts a whole new cycle for the story of humanity. A few years ago in 2020, this is when we had the shutdown, right around that equinox. So this is a new chapter. This is not an extension of that. The last 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022 were part of that paradigm, and now we're in a new chapter. And this is evidenced by a new moon at 0 degrees of Aries the very next day. So this is 0 point for the new moon. this is a new chapter. And when I say it's a new chapter, I'm not saying, okay, everything is back to normal, nothing to see here, and nothing will ever be the same again. I remember when a spiritual teacher said that at the beginning of all of that. And I remember resisting that because even though I did want the world to change, because I knew that there were a lot of things that were not right, I really felt like everything had become so topsy-turvy that it was like I really wanted it to go back to quote unquote normal. So now, 3 years later, I think to myself, I've made peace with that, knowing that we can't go back. We can't put the genie back into the bottle. So it's nice to know that we're having this reset, if you will, where even though there might be some circumstances that are still kind of going along like they have been for the last few years, we're entering new territory. Set your intentions how you want to have your relationship. If you're about to get married, you can do this. If you've been single for 10 years, you can do this. It doesn't mean that some people who call themselves manifestation experts say get very specific. I don't know about that advice. Now maybe that might work for them, but I feel like that is not necessarily a good idea because sometimes we still hold on to preconceived notions of what we think that we want, and we don't realize that that was based on conditioning. So whatever resonates for you on setting intentions, go with. For me, it's more like what I feel is possible based on where I'm at right now. On the 23rd, Pluto goes into Aquarius, another air sign. So you're having these trines. Libra, this is in your 5th house. Oh boy. Well, I will touch upon this, but it's only going to 0 degrees of Aquarius. It's going to go back into your 4th, and it won't fully leave your 4th house until sometime in 2024. The 4th house is the house of childhood. I actually, in that separate video that I did, I actually talk about how it affects your 4th house, because you still are going to have another year where you're going to have to deal with it in your 4th. But I'll just give you a quick preview of Pluto in the 5th. First of all, this could be a very transformative love affair or love situation coming to you that transforms you. Not that somebody else can, do anything to you, but they can certainly be a catalyst for you to change. Watch out for any kind of controlling people. I was going to joke and say watch out for Scorpios coming into your life. But because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and Mars, but Pluto is here. So but controlling people can be of any sign. So watch out for that, because you may meet somebody and you may have a strong connection. Maybe it's a karmic connection, but they're not necessarily good for you because they might be too controlling, obsessive, something like that. This can, if you are an artist, you can do some of your most important work, or at least I would say most affecting work, where you affect other people in terms of like profundity. Some I think the fifth mark can be the stock market because it can be the lotto. Pluto can be wealth. So if you have invested in the stock market, it might be very lucrative for you. But I say that because the fifth house can be gambling, so speculation. So just that even the stock market, if somebody has a propensity to gambling addiction, they might want to steer clear of it because what is really different between the stock market and gambling. Um, but or even Bitcoin, because um, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and has to do with technology. So Pluto, and Pluto is crypto, is cryptic, is hidden, cryptocurrency, yeah, in the fifth house. So investing in that, perhaps, I don't know, and striking it big. On the 25th, Mars goes into Cancer. This is another cardinal sign, so it's going to hit one of your angular houses, in this case, the 10th house of career. So you've had Mars stalled for, a while in the ninth house, and now it is rip-roaring ahead into the 10th house. It's almost like maybe you're unleashed with your ambition. So perhaps some Libra people, if you were training like yoga training, I always think about that with the ninth house, and even with Mars, because it's a physical, hatha yoga at least is physical. That might have somehow you were prevented from doing it professionally. Maybe you're waiting for your certificate, or so that you could do it professionally. Now it's full steam ahead. We still have this green light portal. There's no retrogrades until April 21st. And yes, Mercury will be in its shadow for a couple of weeks before that, but I try to keep it more open because, there's so many retrogrades, you'd never do half of anything if you just focused on that. So yeah, you may be feeling this sigh of relief that you can just kind of really pursue something career-wise. And remember that Saturn has now gone into your sixth house of work. So that hard work, I call the sixth house the grunt work, meaning that it's the actual work itself, and the 10th house is the glory because it's at the top of the chart, and it's kind of your reputation in the world, and therefore how other people view you. And this is coming from what you do in the sixth house to get there. All right, Libra, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you'd like a private reading with me, I'm promoting my double readings, 1 hour each, natal chart analysis and transits for the next 12 months, called my deep dive reading. I also have one with the tarot called the whole enchilada, and single standalone readings, of either one of those, tarot, natal chart, transits, but also life path. If you're at a crossroads, or if you've graduated college and you think that your major sucks because you're in the real world and it's not what you thought it was going to be. Love readings, couples, relationship readings, I call them. But anyway, the link is below. I'm at rainandmoonastrology.com. Thank you for listening. Take care.